Page, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. The Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City proceedings will begin. The board is now in session. If you're in possession of any type of electronic device, please place said device on the off or silent mode during proceedings. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, there have been no preliminary matters on the AM docket. First case, B.S.&R. LLC, trading as Waverly Tavern, 3801 Old York Road. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Here for violation of Rule 4.20, small c, small I, Class BD7 licensees, open and operating tavern at all times on September the 26th, 2018. Please come forward.
Thank
Counsel.
you. Good morning, Stephen W. Fogelman on behalf of the licensees Babette Gotam and Shakar Karki. And Mr. Priebus.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Priebus on behalf of the third licensee, Mr. Can't remember which name is first. Rupendra Lutel, his interest was bought out, but it has not yet been transferred.
Okay. Good morning. Would all those who are going to testify, please raise your right hands.
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, counsel, they're charged with a BD7 violation on September 26, 2018. Is it an admission or denial?
It's a denial, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Inspector, are you going to testify?
Good morning, Agent Chris Morales, Baltimore City Liquor Board. On or about September 26, 2018 at approximately 9:15 p.m., I, Agent Chris Morales, while on duty and working with the BD7 task force consisting of members from the BPD Vice Unit, Detective LeBron, Detective Greenhill, Detective Sergeant Leisher, and working in an undercover capacity was Detective Bonaparte. We were conducting BD7 checks to ensure the taverns are open to the public and not only selling packaged goods. We arrived at 3801 York Road in the city of Baltimore, state of Maryland, known as Waverly Tavern. Once at the location, Detective Bonaparte walked into the establishment and asked the cashier, later identified as one Pradip Khatri, for entry to the tavern. The cashier told the detective that the bar was not open because the bartender was not there. Detective Bonaparte left the establishment, notified the members of the team, and that he was denied entry. We entered the location and explained to the cashier that he had denied entry to an undercover detective, and we explained that the tavern must be open at all times and the packaged goods store, if the packaged goods store is open. We explained the process and left the location without any other incident.
Questions for the
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so Agent Chris Morales, Detective Bonaparte is the only person who allegedly stepped foot in the establishment
At the time of denial.
at the time of denial of service. And Detective Bonaparte is here today?
He is to my far left.
Okay, no problem. And I have no further questions. Thank you.
Do you want to present evidence?
Yeah, well, I'd like to call Detective Bonaparte.
Okay. Detective?
You can testify from there.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Detective Bonaparte, thank you.
His first name.
Sure. They need your first name.
This is Hayward, Heyward.
Thank you. And Detective, the report,
Edward, did you say?
Hayward.
Sorry, you guys can speak into the mic.
Sure.
I just can't really hear you that well.
Heyward.
Thank you.
all right, thank you. Detective Bonaparte, on this date and time, did you meet an employee later to be identified as Mr. Pradeep Khatri?
I believe so. I'm not sure of his name, but
You're not sure of his name? Okay, do you remember the conversation specifically with Mr. Khatri?
yes.
All right, what did you initiate the conversation?
Yes, I asked could I buy alcohol and if I can go into the back in the tavern in the bar area.
So you asked him two questions?
I asked him could I buy alcohol, and he said yes I could. Then I asked him could I go in the back and drink it.
Okay, and what was his reply?
That the bartender wasn't there and it was closed.
And was there anything further?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do you want to put on testimony?
Very, very briefly, thank you. I'll call Shakar Karki. Mr. Karki, step up so you can be heard by the microphone. Were you working on the evening of September 26th at 9:15?
No.
In the evening? No. Who was working at that time?
Yeah, Pradeep Khatri
Mr. Khatri. How long had Mr. Khatri worked for you?
for 1 year.
All right. Was this incident and this visit by the Police and Liquor Board mentioned to you at some time after it happened?
Yeah, after it happened.
When was it mentioned to you after it happened?
Yeah, after like 25, 30 minutes.
Okay, same night?
Yeah.
Okay, and what did Mr. Khatri tell you happened?
Yeah, he told me that yeah, the officer came in and he told that the bar was open, but the bartender was not in there because she was sick.
Did he tell you that he told Detective Bonaparte that the bar was closed at any time?
Yeah, he didn't tell me the bar was closed, but he only said that the bartender was sick.
Okay, thank you very much. And what happened to Mr. Khatri after this incident?
Yeah, after that incident, yeah, I fired him immediately.
All right, thank you very much. And I have no further questions of Mr. Karki at this time.
Any other evidence?
Not at this time.
Okay. Anyone else who was present on September 26th have evidence? Okay. Commissioners? Okay, thank you. On the basis then of the materials contained in the charging documents, the testimony received, I would find a violation of Rule 4.20, small c, small double I, on September 26, 2018.
I too find, based on the testimony and information received, I too find in the testimony of the detective, I do find a violation of Rule 4.20, small c, small I, on September 26, 2018.
Based upon the testimony of Detective Bonaparte, I too find a violation of Rule 4.20C, too small I, on September 26, 2018.
Okay, so there's a whole bunch of people here lined up to testify on the sanction that should be imposed. I just want to remind everybody that this is, you're welcome to do that. Let's keep it fairly brief. This is not a renewal, although those are coming up very soon. And all that will be relevant to that. But who would like to speak first?
I have.
You have to identify yourselves and speak
Oh.
into the microphone, please.
Hi, my name is Alina Lightchaser, and I'm from the Waverly Improvement Association.
And have you submitted something in writing?
I have not
Okay.
submitted it in writing, but I do have a text message from one of the neighbors. He submitted it through text messaging, and so he said, "I am a longtime owner."
Tell me who it
Kindly
is.
object to the.
This is
I understand the objection. It'll be overruled, but
Okay.
who is it?
this is Charles Fleming. He lives on 38th Street.
Okay.
Okay. I am a longtime homeowner on East 38th Street, and I've seen the negative effects in our neighborhood of the current operation of the Waverly Tavern. Lots of noise, loitering, fighting, and suspected drug activity. The quality of life has definitely gone down, along with property values, causing many vacant homes. One of our neighbors was even threatened when he spoke out about the bar and the situation. The bar should be closed as soon as possible.
Okay, anything else?
No,
Okay. Who else wants to testify?
My name's Kunthun Threely. I'm the co-president for the Waverly Improvement Association. We did submit a letter urging the liquor board to respectfully consider revoking this license because this is multiple violations on their record, and this is a violation within months of a previous violation hearing. So we respectfully request the board to revoke this license.
Thank you. Who else? Ms. Valeri?
Barbara Valeri for the Baltimore Good Neighbors Coalition, and I'm a resident of Baltimore City. I just wanted to remind the board at their September 13th hearing on the violations for Waverly Tavern, Mr. Karki testified that the bar was always open.
I'm going
That
to
was
object
under
to this
oath, and-
testimony.
and it's available on video as a part of this this proceeding. He said it was always open during the hours that the establishment was open, 8 a.m. through 2 a.m.
Yeah,
And he was adamant
we don't
about this
have-
fact. Now,
You may be perfectly correct about that. I don't have the transcript in front of me.
it's easily available.
I understand.
Easily
And
available.
it may be, you
Now,
may be accurate.
at that time, you imposed a 1-week suspension.
Your Honor, I'm going to kindly
One-
object to this testimony.
A 1-week suspension
What's
of
the
the,
basis for the
The
objection?
basis is she lives many miles from this bar.
Oh, well, what she's telling us is actually did occur. I mean, we had a hearing on the September 13th, and we did suspend the license for a week.
Right.
So-
I'm just questioning her standing here at this hearing. She's not the Waverly Improvement Associate, she's certainly not the councilwoman.
I'm a citizen,
Well,
a resident of Baltimore City, and I'm
Before
deeply
you all get
committed.
into an argument about
Yeah.
that.
We've
tell
been
me-
through this
Tell me
before.
what you wanted to tell us that we don't already know.
Thank you, sir.
One at a time,
Thank-
one at a time.
Okay?
Thank you. And I'm just saying.
I mean, we know what we did, so just
6
go.
days, if you haven't counted, 6 days after the tavern was reopened, the police and the liquor board go in and find that the tavern is not open, as Mr. Karki had alleged was the case. So we believe that they have a business model for this tavern that doesn't support an open and operating at all times scenario. They are a retail liquor outlet, and they don't meet the requirements of the liquor board, and they don't meet the requirements of zoning.
Well, if they
And
don't,
we
they're going to,
and-
zoning will take care of that.
And very soon, if they don't conform, they are a non-conforming use at that present location. If they don't conform, very, very soon, they will be out of business.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman?
Mary Pat Clark, Baltimore City Council, and I'm here again about this tavern, and I'd like to, I have copies.
We have all of your.
You have copies of my letter, oh, good. Well, if you don't mind, it's short. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't get one? No, you're not going to interrupt me, are you?
No, I already.
Then
told
I'll give
have
it to you.
standing. You have standing.
Actually, my standing is collaborative. My council colleague, Councilman, I'm sorry, yes, Councilman Bill Henry, I forgot what district I was in, actually literally represents this tavern as I did for many, many years until it was redistricted. And I do indeed represent the area around this very tavern. And he asked me to say that he is supportive of what I have to say, which is basically the violation that we have in front of us is one of the causes of the problem of this location. And it is that it is a BD7, it is a required to have a tavern operation while it has its carryout operation. When that stops and it's just a carryout is when the trouble begins in the neighborhood. And so I bring that to your attention now, and I'm hoping that this time around when we come around discontinuing or failing to extend for another year this license, that all the proper police conferences and reports and all of those things have been accounted for, and that we will be able to come at that time without learning when we get here that all the steps have not been completed between the police and the liquor board. But that's what I'm here for, is to say that it's the carryout. And it's the fact of a carryout really operating much of the time without the required tavern where you can sit down, have a drink, etc. That's what the BD7 is. And I hope you will sanction based on this violation, and I hope that you will please double check all the I's and T's as we approach the season where we consider the continuance or not of liquor licenses. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Can I just, Mr. Chairman, so this seems to be the only BD7 violation that the licensee has had. I take the council.
We had one back on September 13th.
Got it. Second. I'm still. Thank you. Never mind. Got it.
Did you have anything?
Nothing, no questions.
Anybody else? Okay.
May I-
Yes, Mr.
may I
Freebus.
Mr. Chairman, as I said earlier, I represent an outgoing licensee, Mr. Rupindra Lutel. Back in around the fall of 17, he was asked to be bought out by these two gentlemen. There was a payment terms, and that is still ongoing. I did not want to interfere in Mr. Fogelman's presentation, but I did want to represent on behalf of my client that he still has they put in the application to transfer out of his name, and he would have to sign that transfer authorization. But respectfully ask that you consider, in the event that a revocation is on the table today, that not be done, and that the license be afforded to be transferred to someone else if that were in the cards. Otherwise, I will stay out of this. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I just need to ask this question. I apologize. What is this about? Is there a transfer being enacted at this
Apparently
point?
they're buying his client out, but it hasn't happened yet.
All right, so
My client was a 1/3 owner. There was a third, a third, a third.
I see.
And these two gentlemen asked Mr. Lutel not to be part of the business anymore.
So he's being bought out
he's
of
being
the
bought
business.
out
He's
of-
not being brought in.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody that wants to leave is fine with me.
No, Paul's the landlord. Lupinder,
Okay.
the other guy.
Okay, did you want to be heard, Mr. Fogelman?
Yes, most definitely. Thank you very much. What happened on September 26, it's ironic because the bar was shut down for a week by the liquor board. During that week, we met with Mary Pat Clark in that bar, in that shuttered bar, and Miss Lightchaser and Mr. Sweely.
The tavern was open at the time.
Well, no alcohol was being served at that time. We were there specifically for a meeting, nor was any alcohol served. In any event, during that time, the licensees and the community interests, including the major, came together and had a productive meeting. And since that time, the licensees have had, since September 26, licensees have not had any further offenses. Specifically, that day, we addressed the idea of the tavern. And the problem here is that you've got one employee. If there's one thing that my clients, they have employees. Rule one is the bar is always open. So whatever Mr. Kotry said, whether he simply said the bartender's sick, or whether he said the bartender's sick and the bar is closed, as Detective Bonaparte testified to, I mean, it really, if nothing else, comes down to possibly an employee's laziness because he doesn't want to have to get behind the bar. I don't know, but what I do know is that you have to understand that my clients here, rule one is the bar is always open. I mean, especially if they just got fined and suspended 2 weeks before for not operating as a tavern. He can't be there 24/7, Mr. Karki. And so it happened. I mean, that's all there is to it. But I don't know what my client could have done to, once an employee is independently running the business, for him to make that statement to anyone. There's nothing my client can do to intervene and correct it. However, in that regard, and I want to make it clear because these licensees for months now have been trying to meet with, have another meeting with the community. After the postponement that this board granted, after a miscommunication I had or a mistake on the date, we had a month. And I did reach out to the Waverly Improvement Association. They were kind enough to speak with me on the phone, but it's clear that they don't want to talk anymore. And if you'll remember, this is the same case where, you know, they got blindsided with a protest of renewal last year, and nobody had intervened and said, can we talk about this before we ask to kill your license? This is also the same organization that declined to participate in mediation that was recommended by the Baltimore City Liquor Board last summer. So there hasn't, we're grateful we got the one meeting with the community at the tavern during the suspension, but we'd like more. In that regard, the terms of a possible MOU, Councilwoman, I'm speaking.
Oh, my
There's
goodness.
a record. Councilwoman, there's a record.
I
and Miss-
apologize. My apologies.
Thank you. And there's also a mute button, too, if you need to have a conversation.
Well, thank you. I really
That's right, we
appreciate.
have a full docket, so let's
Okay,
wrap.
sure, certainly. So in that regard, my clients have been talking about and formulating terms for an MOU for months, but it takes two to do an MOU, as you know. In that regard, my clients today are here to offer 4 license restrictions that would be placed in writing on the license, which would have the same, if not stronger, effect than an MOU.
But you could take that up with the board, I mean, with our staff. Like, I mean, we've really got to deal with this.
All right, well, very,
violation.
very briefly then, just so you understand, there's obviously a lot of concern about this bar here. These folks have security and plan to continue to have security from 8 to midnight, Thursday through Sunday nights, paid private security. These licensees have and will continue to close no later than midnight, a full 2 hours before the law requires. These licensees have agreed to never sell any items which may be considered drug paraphernalia. And finally, and this has been a point of contention, these licensees are willing to put on their license that they shall not provide cups to customers for off-premises sales at any time. So they're trying, is what I'm saying here, Your Honor. Obviously, an error of judgment occurred on the part of a bartender who's now fired. I would just ask you to consider that they continue to try to work with the community so that we can find a solution to some of the concerns that the neighbors have raised. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, if I may, these are all statements. They're not agreements. Let the neighborhood work it out as they wish. But Lieutenant Bonaparte is prepared to say that the third-party version of the conversation he had is not accurate, and that the testimony he gave about the conversation is what happened. It wasn't this vague.
How do you know what he
Because I asked him when I heard their testimony.
Right,
And he said he'd be willing to step back and say it, but we've got second, third-party versions of a conversation he carried on, and he represented correctly to this board, not the conversation that's evolving to my right amongst all the applicants.
not
May
sure
I
what we're
just,
talking about, but go ahead.
there's no evolution of a conversation. A fired employee reported to the licensee what he
heard
was
the
told.
testimony.
Right, you already found the
We heard the
licensee
testimony.
responsible.
Right.
So, yeah.
So,
We have a couple more testimonies.
on what?
On the Waverly Tavern. We've got Andrea DeCampo here.
And
who
does
wants
she,
to talk
something
over.
in addition to what we've already heard, ma'am?
Yes, yeah.
Come
She needs
forward.
to be sworn in.
Have you been sworn? Well, step up, raise your right hand. I don't know why you didn't come up when I called.
I'm sorry, sir, I had a closing that I couldn't
Okay.
reschedule. I have a business also.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Spell your name.
Andrea, A-N-D-R-E-A, Campo, C-A-M-P-O.
Ms. Campo, what do you have about
Just
this?
so you know that we are all working people, and we do all take time off to come to these hearings, and everybody's been here multiple times because of your misunderstanding. However, I own property on that block, and I can tell you that this has negatively impacted the value of my property. Properties cannot be sold on that block, specifically because of the tavern. The folks that own the property adjacent to the tavern could not sell that property for over 2 years, specifically because people will not live near that tavern. People are spilling out all over the streets. It's violent, it's loud, there is no administration whatsoever. They may say they're there, but I can tell you the street gambling, the street fighting, everything that happens around that neighborhood, I'm afraid to go to my house. I'm afraid to go there because of that tavern. And now you're going to say that all of these things that happen as a homeowner, once I've invested in the city, now the rules are going to change because it's going to be okay for some neighbors to behave badly. I don't think that's okay if you want people to continue to invest in this city, to change the rules along the way, that some business owners get held to one set of standards and another business owners get held to a separate set of standards. As a civilian and a resident, I'm afraid to go to my house. Are any of you afraid to go to your houses because of an establishment next door? I think that's a pretty bold statement. Plus, you are financially impacting both my wealth and the generational wealth of my family because the value of my house has literally declined, specifically due to this establishment. I think that's a pretty serious issue.
Okay, anything else?
Very briefly, ma'am, are you aware that the Baltimore City Police Department is no longer arresting for loitering and dice?
Sir, I can tell you that I also live on the 3500 block of 35th Street, and a small girl, 3 years old, was murdered due to dice games on the street.
Folks, we're
So
here on
yes, that was a problem.
we're here on a BD7.
okay.
I'm not interested in any of that,
Yeah.
okay? So, anything else, Commissioners?
No.
Okay. On the basis of the finding that there was a violation of Rule 4.20, small c, double I, on September 26, 2018, and that there were a number of previous violations just recently before that, I would impose a fine of $3,000. I'd give them 30 days to pay it, and I'd suspend the license for a week starting immediately.
I agree. I concur. I am concerned about the establishment, and I hear the concerns of the councilwoman and the community. I agree with the imposition of a $3,000 fine and 1 week suspension starting today.
Having found a violation of Rule 4.20C, too small I too would concur with the imposition of a $3,000 fine and a suspension of 1 week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Suspended immediately.
Is Tom going to call the exhibits into the record?
I'm going to call the exhibits. I'm sorry. Calling the exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1, Baltimore City Police Department report from Detective LeBrun. Exhibit number 2, BLLC investigation report from Agent Chris Amalis. Exhibit number 3, letter of opposition from Councilwoman Clark, January 16th, 2019, and February 21st, 2019. Letter of opposition from Senator Washington dated February 5th, 2019. 3 letters of opposition from the Waverly Improvement Community Association, and email with 4 police report records.
Mr. Page, next case.
Orto Management LLC, trading as Orto, 1709 North Charles Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. An application for a new Class B beer, wine, and restaurant license under Article 12-1603, C1, small I, requiring $200,000 in capital investment and a seating capacity for a minimum of 75 people. This is a request for outdoor table service. Please come forward.
Good morning, Stephen W. Fogelman on behalf of the applicant.
Good morning. Would you raise your right hand, sir, please?
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Mr. Fogelman, so we have a new restaurant?
Yes, thank you. Let's move on to happier days. Here is a budget for Orto. Orto is making fresh pasta, which is amazing. And for
Thank you.
Thank you.
Orto is the brainchild of Elon Kotz, who is standing to my right. He has put in,
He doesn't look Italian.
but he is. Let me give you some photos of the establishment and some press it's received. Additionally, I believe there was some community support that came in extremely last minute from, was it from Alan Menarchuk?
Yeah, he emailed it over like.
Yeah. Okay. I only have one copy of these color photos. Let me.
All these exhibits will be received, okay.
Mr. Fogelman, we haven't received any emails.
Oh, yeah, this literally came in this morning. It was addressed to the judge, and I just saw it. So again, that's okay. What I do have, however, is a email confirming community support for the liquor board hearing rather than the formal letter to the board, and I'll share that at this time.
Okay, thanks. So what was here previously? It was a restaurant?
Yeah.
What was that called, do you know?
There was a series of them. I believe the first was Red Parrot.
Okay.
The second was Colette, and then Bottega, which I think was the same owner, and then I got the new lease.
Oh, so you were where the old Bottega was?
No, the
no,
Bottega
they
has an
moved-
interesting lifeline.
They're
Not
gone
the
again.
Bottega. He moved it from the Maryland Ave to Charles Street.
Right.
So this is where Bottega 2.0 was most recently.
Right by the Charles Theater?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't realize they were gone from there.
No one did.
Okay. So you've taken that over and you're renovating it?
I did renovate it already.
Okay. And that's what those pictures represent?
Correct.
And these numbers that you've given us, do they add up to over $200,000?
They definitely
Looks like
do.
330. Is
Yeah.
that an accurate count?
Yeah.
Okay. And how many people can be seated in your restaurant?
78.
Okay. And when would you be opening?
When are we going to open the restaurant?
Yeah.
We're open now.
You're open, you're just
I'm
not
hoping
serving.
to add the liquor license.
So it's a BYOB at this point, or?
I was informed we
Yeah,
can't.
you can't do that.
We can't do
Okay.
anything, yeah.
Let me just hand you some press clippings from The Sun and others regarding the project.
And I read this paper, and I didn't realize that you had done this.
It happened very quickly.
Mr. Kotz, any issues, you own the food market for a few years or a part owner, any liquor issues?
I've never had any, no.
Thank you. I didn't mean you personally, I meant the.
No, the establishment,
Yeah.
I sold in May of 15, so since then, I don't know what has happened, but when I was there was none.
Thank you.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
Is there anything else?
No, thank you.
Commissioners have any questions?
And it's zoned for outdoor table service?
That I'm not sure because
It
I.
is.
It is, indeed? Okay.
Do we have that in our?
I don't recall seeing it, that's fine. Oh, never mind. There it is.
Yeah, the use and occupancy was acquired by Mr. Bauer, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it's in here. Okay.
Great.
All right, well, thank you. Then on the basis of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from council, testimony received, and the exhibits received, I would approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license with outdoor table service.
I agree on the same grounds and would approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license with outdoor table service.
Having exceeded an investment of $200,000 and having more than 75, capacity for more than 75 seats, I too would concur with the granting of a new Class B license with outdoor table service.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you so
Good
much.
luck.
Hope to see you there.
Calling the exhibits for the record. Exhibit number 1, a breakdown costs. Exhibit number 2, photos. Exhibit number 3, email of support. Exhibit number 4, newspaper clippings.
Thank you very much.
Calmer LLC, trading as Pie in the Sky, 716 South Broadway. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. An application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license under Article 12-903, C, number 2, small I, requiring $500,000 in capital investment and seating capacity for 75, but not more than 150 individuals, requesting outdoor table service and delivery of alcoholic beverages. Please come forward.
Counsel?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Steve Fogelman, on behalf of all applicants who are present.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you raise your right hands, please?
Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
All right, so Mr. Fogelman, you want to tell us about this venture?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mirkan is
Which one's Mr.
Mr. Mirkan is standing to my right, and he is the brainchild behind Mare Nostrum, which was a popular restaurant without a liquor license in Fells Point for several years. They did a fantastic city paper write-up on it, and I'd like to enclose that for the file now.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Mirkan got involved at 716 South Broadway in 2013, and he thought, I'm going to open in 3 months. But what he didn't realize is he's in a 225-year-old building, and that caused a lot of problems. It spent over 13 months to open. He had to do demolition of the property, new beams, structural repairs, replace the 200-year-old flooring. He replaced almost all of the plumbing and electric. These things were ancient. He had to replace gas lines as well. So effectively what happened is, over the last 5 years, Mr. Mirkan has put so much money into this business that at some point he crossed the $500,000 line as far as capital investment goes. And he's taking out a service area for a wait staff, so that he's now able to have 78 people in there. He's got a capacity, I believe, of 90 or 95 with 90 with the fire department. So he's able to get 75, the requisite 75 seats. None of them are bar seats. There is no bar to speak of at the restaurant, and that's where we are. So let me first give you a budget.
Thank you.
You said 75 seats?
70, 80, I think you
78.
said. And this shows a total of 582,000 plus?
That's correct. I'd also like to give you a packet with, probably be helpful if I got a color printer, because then I can make you guys copies instead of having my clients bring them. I have a petition in support of the project,
Thank you, it will be received.
and I have extensive photos showing before and after, including busted pipes and 200-year-old floorboards.
And the petition contains names from people in the community
Correct.
close adjacent to the restaurant.
And Mr. Mirkan did also visit the Fells Point Residents Association a couple weeks ago. He wasn't on the docket, but he showed up. They have it's a great concept because they have a little happy hour at 6:30 before the meeting. And so he showed up at that time, and he's very well known in the community because of Mare Nostrum. And so, asked if people had any.
We're running Mare Nostrum?
We didn't have a liquor license, so we couldn't survive, actually. We closed it, so I opened, we have a longer contract with the landlord, so I needed to do something else, and we did the Pie in the Sky. I have another restaurant, actually, around Belvedere Square. It's been there 9 years. It's called Toss. We don't have a liquor license there, but it's a similar concept.
Pizza place, primarily?
Yes.
Good pizza?
Yeah, thank you.
And here is.
Oh, thank you. You know Toss?
I do know
Wonderful.
Well, here are 4 menus.
Thank you.
Mr. Fogelman, if I could, so Ms. Massapust has submitted a concern. I want to give you the opportunity to respond about the seating capacity. She's concerned about that it doesn't exceed the 75. I just wanted to make sure you have the opportunity to respond to that.
Oh, no, this, I can understand that. Yes, so there is a service bar. In fact, there's one of those pictures will show, there's an area that currently is it's a service bar for basically to rest pizzas on, that the employees are behind. That is getting torn out, and that will add an additional, at least 3 tops, an additional 12 seats. So I don't see what she's saying. She's saying it did not appear that they had that many seats.
Yeah, she was unsure. She's not against this, but
Right.
she just was raising that as an
No, and I appreciate that. No, so that's exactly what is going on, is that today, if you walk in there, there's only going to be like 64 seats or 66 seats. But once 3 more tables are put in, and it's effectively like tearing something like this down.
And when will that be accomplished?
I know Mr. Mirkan will address that. I don't, yeah.
We spent lots of money, so we didn't know what's going to happen here. And after this, we are going to take an immediate action. We talked to a few builders already. So as soon as after this meeting, after this hearing, we are going to sign a contract with someone, and they're going to start doing it. So we have actually two places right behind. There are 2 bars, stations. We are going to tear it down, and at the same time, left of the restaurant that we have, it's like a self-service restaurant right now. So we put like some water, some plates, some silverwares, and some even Coke fridge. So we are going to put tables around there too. So there are like a larger area actually.
So part of the issue, that's one of the requirements, that it has to have 75 seats.
Right, and the project, as rendered and is budgeted for, does have 75 seats. I mean, the board.
The license until they have it.
Exactly. And the board, right, it issues new restaurant licenses all the time for places that haven't even had the first brick installed. So, yeah, of course, he will have his seating, his final seating before the license.
So are the other gentlemen involved in the operation of the restaurant, or just investors?
Investor and city resident to the right.
Okay. And who's going to run it? I mean, you are.
I'm running, yeah.
With how many employees?
At this time, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 in the kitchen. We have 2 in the front, but we are changing the style, so we are gonna have a full service. So we are gonna hire more people for the front.
And who will manage the alcohol?
I will.
Are you alcohol certified?
I don't yet, no.
You will?
Yes.
Have you ever done it before?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So you
yeah.
understand
I
our
used to be a
rules and regulations?
bartender years ago, yeah.
Oh, okay. In Baltimore?
No, I'm from Turkey. I did it in Istanbul.
We have
when I was-
different rules.
Excuse me? Different rules, yeah, for sure.
Okay, make sure that you understand ours.
Of course,
so
yeah.
that
I
you
will,
don't
I
run
will
afoul.
get proper education about it.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
Further questions?
Anything else?
No, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. On the basis of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from council testimony, and all the exhibits which have been received, I would vote to approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license with outdoor table service and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
I concur and vote to approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, liquor license request with outdoor table service and delivery of alcoholic beverages as well.
Having found an investment of over $500,000 or $500,000 and seating capacity over 75, I too would vote to issue the new Class B license with outdoor table service and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Thank you.
Calling the exhibits for the record. Exhibit number 1, capital investment breakdown. Exhibit number 2, city paper article. Exhibit number 3, photos. Exhibit number 4, petition of support. Exhibit number 5, menus. Exhibit number 6, email from Joanne Massapos from the Fells Point Community Association. Mr. Fogelman.
Thank you very much.
Poppies Hamden LLC, trading as Poppies Hamden, 3820 Falls Road. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership. Please come forward.
Council.
Thank you. Stephen W. Fogel on behalf of applicant Justin Lehman.
Morning. Gentlemen, will you raise your right hands, please?
Now, do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth?
Yes.
All right, a transfer, finally. So first, here's a little information sheet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And this will tell you a little bit about Poppy's Tacos at Poppy's, a staple of Fells Point at this point. Mr. Jurdy has been successful with that location, and this is a very exciting, I mean, I haven't seen a place in Hamden that's been more, you know, people are excited to go to it. They want to know when is it, you know, when are we going to do this? So they're pretty excited about this. This is a good team that has involvement in Alexander's Tavern, Huck's American Craft over in Brewers Hill, Wicked Sisters, and it's got a great track record, great policy on training their employees so they don't get in trouble with the liquor board. You know, you can see they have a budget of $380,000, so they're not required to, because this is a transfer. So I'm going to throw that into evidence. Thank you. But really, the more important thing you're going to be looking for here is a letter from President Matt Stegman of the Hamden Community Council, which was dated February 18th, and I don't know if it's in your papers or not.
Saw it, but I may not have seen it. Do you have a copy?
I sure do, for the board.
Oh, okay,
Got it.
thanks.
Okay, and then that is accompanied by a memorandum of understanding that was entered into with the Hamden Community Council.
Okay. And is your client willing to have the terms of the MOU made part of his license?
He is.
Do we have unsigned copies, but I assume they're...
We have a single original.
Okay. We'll just...
And that's executed.
Take note of it. We'll give it back to you.
Just to clarify, there's no requests for outdoor table service, right? Because there's no zoning.
Yeah, that had to be pulled in order to get this hearing and get the place open. So we'll see you soon for that. Hopefully before it gets too warm, so.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further?
No, nothing further. Thank you.
Have questions?
No further questions.
No questions.
Okay. Thank you. Then, on the basis of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from council, any testimony received, the exhibits, including the memorandum of understanding with the Hamden, which is it? Hampton Village Merchants Association. And the Community Association, which is dated what?
Yeah, okay, so yeah, we've got one with the HCC. Yes, it's dated 2/15, last signer was licensee, and it was 2/19/19. So I guess that's the effective date.
2 days ago. Okay.
And that's between licensee, HVMA, and HCC. 3 parties. Thank you.
So I would vote on the basis of all those materials to approve the application to transfer ownership, and the new license would be subject to the terms of the MOU to the extent they're enforceable by law.
I concur on the same basis to vote to approve the transfer of this license and attaching the MOU to the extent that it is enforceable by law.
I vote to approve the transfer with the MOU to the extent it's enforceable by law.
Good luck.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Calling the exhibits for the record, exhibit number 1, applicants collective, including cost assessment and floor plan. Exhibit number 2, letter from the Hamden Community Council. Exhibit number 3, a copy of the memorandum of understanding.
Merit Beverage Baltimore LLC, trading as Hotel RL Baltimore Inner Harbor, 207 East Redwood Street. This is a Class B hotel motel, beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership with continuation of live entertainment. Please come forward.
Counsel?
Good morning, Leanne Schreckengost here on behalf of the applicants.
Good morning. Would you gentlemen raise your right hands, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Ms. Schreckengost, what's going on here?
We have a transfer of the liquor license. The operation of the hotel is not changing. The owner had previously managed the hotel and owned the property. They are now, excuse me, still remain the owner, but they have, pardon me, changed management responsibility to a hotel management company. Parent company's HEI Hotels. They are well experienced in the operation and management of hotels throughout the country, and they have taken over this hotel. 2 of the licensees are remaining the same. Carlos Orjulla, to my immediate right, is the general manager of the hotel, is currently on the license and will remain on the license and will remain in charge of the business. And as I indicated, nothing's changing with the operation.
So who's being added to the license?
Mr. Michael Breitenbach is being added to the license.
Okay.
He is the regional director of operations for the company.
Okay. And how long have you been with the company?
9 years.
Okay. And you've dealt with restaurants within the hotels and alcohol?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how many people will be handling alcohol at this place?
2 people.
2 people. And will they be certified?
One of them is currently certified. The other one will go through.
Okay.
And you yourself are alcohol certified, correct?
As well.
And here's a copy of Mr. Orjulla's.
Thank you. Is this for us?
That's for you.
Okay. We'll
And
make
I
it
also have
part
a copy of the updated menu for your records.
And thank you.
Certainly.
We'll make all this part of the record. Commissioners have questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question. Mr. Akris, why is it that Ms. Schreckengost is always the last one on our docket? At some point, we gotta make sure that she gets to the front. She's always waiting.
But yeah, well, I'm sure you were fascinated by the docket. Anyway, on the basis of the materials contained in the application and the proffers from counsel, the testimony, and the exhibits received, I'd vote to approve the transfer.
I concur on the same basis and vote to approve the transfer of this license.
I too vote to approve the transfer with the continuation of live entertainment.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Schreckengost?
Thank you, Mr. Akris.
No problem. Calling the exhibits for the record, exhibit number 1, alcohol awareness certificate, exhibit number 2, menu.
Mr. Page, is that our docket for the morning?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The board is in recess until 1 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2018 is, sorry, he ran it through December of 2017, and then we filed a transfer application in December of 2018 to Mr. Conitz himself and Ms. Townsend. Looking to get open as soon as possible. He does run around the restaurant in the area that does not have a liquor license. It's immediately nearby, but everything should be fine. He is in the area often. Ms. Townsend will be helping out on weekends with day-to-day activities. They will both be alcohol awareness certified, and we'll get background checks to you probably in the next week or two. Mr. Conitz, how many years of experience do you have in the restaurant and beverage industry?
30 years.
At this time, if the board has any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Yeah, have you had any violations before the board
Violations?
of our rules or regulations?
No.
Okay. And where was your most recent job?
I still own the restaurant next door,
Oh, okay. And what's the name of the restaurant?
New Lyman Park Restaurant.
How long have you had that?
30 years.
Oh, okay. Is that family business or something?
Yeah, me and my father.
Okay. Is it not working?
They said they weren't on.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions?
No questions.
None.
Okay, thank you. On the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from counsel, and the testimony received, I'd vote to approve the transfer.
I concur.
I vote to approve the transfer.
Thank you. May we be excused?
Yes, good luck.
Thank you.
Are there any exhibits for that one?
I don't think so.
No, no exhibits for the record.
Sportsman, 501 South Lehigh Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership. Please come forward. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the address of 501 South Lehigh Street does appear on the non-compliance zoning list and must come into compliance with the new zoning standards.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. For the record, Melvin J. Knensky representing the applicant. This is a application to transfer an existing license. It's been there
Before you
for...
go down there, can I have them sworn? Would you raise your right hands, please?
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
It is.
Okay, yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Kudensky.
No, it was a tavern's been there for a long time. An application to transfer an existing license. The current applicant has been on a license in the past down on Fleet and Washington Street years ago, maybe 7 years ago. And was there on a license with his uncle. He has been in there working in this business since November. With me is here's Rebecca Lang. She's the current licensee. Has the place for the last 5 years. She is helping him get through the operation of the business. Got to meet the neighbors. It's a small place, 35 people maybe. He's going to take the alcohol awareness course, get fingerprinted. It's be like a one-man operation. He's going to be open in the afternoons until 1 or 2 a.m., depending on the business. He eventually wants to add some food later on, but he just wants to go ahead and have it transferred and get it up and running.
Okay, and I don't think that Ms. Lang's had any problems with
No,
us.
she said in the 5 years she didn't have no problems there.
Okay,
And up in that area, there would have been problems.
And Mr. Alacron, is that how I say it? Alacron? You understand our rules and regulations, sir?
Yes, sir.
Commissioners have questions?
None.
Just the applicant's experience, I'm not sure we heard.
He has been there since November, working in the business with the
Okay.
current licensee, and about 7 or 8 years ago, he was a licensee for about 4 years on Washington and Fleet Street.
Thank you. Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing else.
Thank you. On the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from counsel, and testimony received, I would vote to approve the transfer.
I also vote to approve the transfer.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer.
Good luck, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
No exhibits for the record.
Carolina Tex-Mex Restaurant LLC, trading as Carolina Tex-Mex Restaurant, 500 South Wolf Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. An application to transfer location of a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license presently located at 505 South Broadway to 500 South Wolf Street. Please come forward.
Counsel.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Harry Previs on behalf of Janice Silva, and to her right is Pedro Silva, her husband. Thomas Hamrick couldn't make it today. He has a family emergency.
Okay, and you want to identify yourself?
Peter Previs, co-counsel.
Okay, with those who are going to testify, raise their right hands, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Previs.
Yeah, we postponed this hearing a couple times now, and it was for the purpose of getting a memorandum of understanding with the Fells Prospect Community Association. They withdrew their request for an MOU. They actually alerted us that they were against the transfer of the license because
The letter that, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the letter that we received indicates, apparently their board of directors drafted an MOU and the membership voted it down on January 9th. Is that accurate?
that's accurate, yes.
Okay.
Somewhat accurate.
Well, that's what they tell me.
Well,
Scott Goldman tells me that.
we agreed to all the terms that they drafted, but it was, yes, it was the membership that
And
voted
what
against.
what were the terms that it fell apart on, do you know?
We're not sure. I mean, we agreed to everything in the MOU. We have a copy here, if you'd like to take a look at that. We also have email correspondence with Mr. Goldman.
So we have letters, we have a letter from Mr. Martz at the Fells Point Residents Association supporting the transfer. We have this letter from the Fells Point Prospect Community Association saying they've withdrawn their approval of the MOU. And then I have an email from Joan Massapust et al. And what does this say? They want a postponement
For today?
for an MOU.
And then, Mr. Chairman,
That's dated today, or yesterday, I'm sorry, February 21st.
I don't know who you are, so.
Mr. Chairman, also, Mr. Martz's, I just want to be clear, Mr. Martz's support appears to be as long as there's no live entertainment or dancing allowed.
Right.
So, yeah, I just want to.
And
Okay.
we're not requesting live entertainment or dancing.
Okay, so, since you don't know what broke down, and they seem to know, let me hear from the other side, okay? If you'd identify yourselves for the record, please.
My name is Andrew Dowell, president of Lillian Zeiler Funeral Home. Dowell, D-O-W-E-L-L. To address the MOU issue with Fells Prospect, it was at the last hearing, it was postponed due to the prospect of having an MOU. And so I was in communication with Scott Goldman as well as Previs. And it was suggested, or at the prior hearing, it said, or I asked the question of all the people, my concern was that all the people who have opposed this, who had either written letters or were here through the first or the second hearing, be made part of the negotiations for the MOU. So at the community association meeting, I spoke with Scott prior to the meeting. I said, are we able to, or the people who have opposed this, are they able to voice their opinions with regards to any of the terms of the MOU? And he said, yes, it could be negotiated at the meeting. So we had maybe 10 of the community members there at the association meeting. and we started having the conversation with regards to the MOU. And I don't know who it was one of the membership said, why are we even having this conversation? Why don't we vote on whether or not we support the transfer of this license before we even get into the weeds on an MOU? And so that was brought to the floor. I think it was a vote of 20 who opposed the transfer to 7 or 7 or 8, I think, who were for the transfer. So that's why the MOU was never negotiated.
Never got considered.
Yes.
Okay. And you folks are?
Hi, I'm Tony Toxerman at Toxerman's Fishing Tackle. I'm in the 1900 block of Eastern Avenue. Family's been in business there for over 100 years.
Spell your last name, please.
Tochterman. I'm kind of unique because we have the business at 1919 to 25 Eastern Avenue, a half a block away from the premise we're talking about. But we also live at 1902, 1904 Eastern Avenue. So my wife and I live there, so we're both residents as well as business people in the community. I have lived there since 1981, so I'm not new to the program. I am pro-business, so it is not the reason I'm up here to say that I'm against this business. It is the wrong business for the wrong location, and it is not something that's going to be conducive to houses in our block. That the last 4 houses in our block went anywhere between $500,000 to $700,000 for a row home. Now, if they can put that kind of money and pay $1,000 a month for property taxes, they don't want to have and establish not a corner little bar or restaurant. This is an area that will accommodate up to 100+ people. There's no parking in the area. It's not acceptable for this kind of community living. And for that reason, I'd like to say I'm opposed to it.
Okay. And ma'am, you are?
My name is Deborah Tempera, and I have already
How do you
tested.
spell your name, please?
DEBORAH,
Tempera. Okay.
And
Yes, ma'am.
I testified at the first hearing before it was imposed. I still feel the same. I'm a little surprised. I was at the last meeting of Fells Point Resident and Homeowners Association, which Joanne Massapus is the president. At that last meeting, and there's been no meeting since then and I'm a member. Andrew's also a member, and there's other people in the community. We voted to oppose an MIU. We did the same thing Fells Prospect did. Now, where this letter came from and why, as a member, I'm very surprised. I never received any emails from Joanne notifying that there's been a change on our position and our vote. And the last meeting, I believe that was
Actually, this is from a Jeffrey May. It's copied to Joanne Massapus, Kurt Schiller, Maureen Gershberg.
Oh, no, that's Uppers Fells Point. The other one, Joanne Massacopus, is the Fells Point Community Association. And the whole MOU started because there was a miscommunication, and Joanne had put forth out there to all the associations do an MOU, and it started the process, but then there was votes on it, and that association voted opposing it. And I'm surprised there's no letter. I could get a letter here on that last meeting date we had. Was that December or?
For Joanne?
Yeah.
It's been a while because
It's
they don't. hold
probably
meetings.
November was our last meeting because we haven't had a meeting since because of facilities.
The facility we
Yeah.
use is
It's
not
very
heated,
cold, so they said no meetings during the winter time. So that's 2 associations. Dave Metz Association, the Fells Point Residents Association, basically, they don't even care what goes on Eastern Avenue, and usually they follow up with whatever the more impacted neighborhoods, which would be Fells Point Residents Association, Fells Prospects Association. That is the biggest, and that's the most people in that neighborhood. Plus, I think we have a lot of letters. Also, there may be a little conflict right now with the fire department. There is an investigation of whether the facility is equipped for the new venue. Clearance on doors, clearance on the fact the grocery store has been taken away, so now they have not re-examined the capacity. There's been two capacity numbers, so the capacity question for the fire department hasn't even been correct. And right now, I know that they said they were going to contact the liquor board over the weekend about this.
Did we receive anything from the fire department?
We did not.
Okay. Oh, well, I can tell you because I've been inquiring a little bit about some clarifications. So, anyway, I'm definitely opposed to this. It's not the right venue and not the right place and not the right size. It would be very congested for all of us and an extreme impact. We have plenty of bars in the facility. This does not serve a purpose, bar restaurants, and you've heard our spiel before. Thank you.
I just have one question for Ms. Tempera. Ms. Tempera, where do you live?
I live at 960 Fell Street, but I own a property at 1900 Fleet Street, which
Okay.
is a half a block down the
So
street.
you do live in Fells Point?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's it.
Excuse me, I have a question for you also. Did you see anything posted on the building where the bar was to transfer transfer of ownership? Have you seen any posted sign on that building stating that the use of that building was changed?
No. That was also the question, and the housing department never got back with me months ago about the new occupancy permit. It was but I think it's still they're okay, it's a C-1. But the difference is the time of inspections. Speaking with the fire department at the one time, they saw a grocery store downstairs. They had occupancy with 40-some people just for the little corner. And then they did an upstairs. 3 different inspectors said it was 150. The inspecting fire department guy said it was 100. It's a lot of space, and those numbers just didn't jive with me correctly. And I wasn't, it's just for our safety because there has been a fire in this building before on the 2nd floor. And this building is not restorated up to date except for the new hood system. That is it. If you look at I've mentioned this before, if you look at the sequence of all the permits of how this building was constructed over the years, there's just all these questions, and this is a major, big capacity facility. So anyway, it doesn't, the building is not in the greatest shape on the outside. And inside, I'm not so sure. I'm sure it may pass some things, but it's never been inspected for certain things for a long, long time.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jones, we have a use permit for the premises.
It's in the packet.
Yeah.
It's been issued.
I'm fine.
Okay, so the status of this is they came before the board. Everybody agreed to take some time and see if you could work out a memorandum of understanding. One was negotiated, and then the community organization decided not to even consider it. So, commissioners, where are we?
I would still like to add some testimony if possible before a vote.
Okay, but this is about the 12th time. What are you going to add that's new?
Okay.
As it goes for the communications for the
They'll be
MOU,
received.
there are some emails there. We also have signatures in support of the transfer.
Documents will be received. Yes, sir.
I did a little more research on the file at the liquor board, and I found this letter from Maslin and Maslin. It was when the business was operating on 505 South Broadway, and that they had come and taken the license due to a judgment. And what I presented to you today, it was returned. I believe it was because at the time bankruptcy was filed. I think that bankruptcy was denied, but in the interim, the license was given back to the applicants to use. There are still 2 current open, that I have found in the records, 2 open judgments. When it states on the application that do any of the applicants personally or through an entity have indebtedness to distributor or financial brewer, distiller, what have you. There are two open cases that show that, in fact, there are some open indebtedness there. The other thing I like to present, and we may have kind of discussed this at the prior hearing, is I've done some research on the building itself. And the applicants are not the owners of the building, the applicants are not the owners of the building, they're just going to be the renter of the building. And what I've presented to you there is the real estate tax bills for the past 3 years on that building have not been paid, as well as a $6,500 water bill for 2 or 3 year period that has not been paid. So my thought is, if I would assume as a board you would want to make sure that the applicant would have strong financial standing in terms of opening a business and operating a business. And I believe we brought this to the attention of the Silvas about the property taxes not having been paid. They expressed to us that they had spoken to the owner and they were to be paid in December, but to date they still have not yet been paid. So I'll leave with that. And again, the last thing, well, I guess the last thing I would like to say, or just to reiterate for a third time, because I've done this 3 times, is again, I operate the funeral home, which is directly across the street from the facility. We've been there 110 years, just about. This building is 8,500 approximately square foot building. We are, again, the only funeral home that the community can go to in their time of loss from the Inner Harbor to Highlandtown. And I don't think the idea of serving liquor to all hours of to the early morning would be an appropriate setting for the families we try and serve within the community. You know, I went to a school and our motto was "Men for Others," and I've devoted my life in the funeral profession doing what I feel is that, serving as men for others. I think this would be a detriment to the community at large and to our business. And one other, I guess, note that I would like to express is that we're dealing with a growing Latino community in Baltimore, and traditionally for them, at least what I have found, is they don't adhere to what would be a typical viewing hour or viewing day. Usually, you know, at our funeral home, we might have like a 3 to 5 in the afternoon, a 7 to 9 in the evening. You know, that's traditionally, I guess, what's acceptable here. A lot of the Latinos that we do work with, their customs are different, and we've had them do all night visitations. We have one this weekend till 10 o'clock at night. So we're trying to accommodate their traditions and serving them as well. And just the idea of these late hours with liquor across the street, it's not that we close our doors at 9 o'clock. We could be open till all hours of the morning. So I just thought I'd bring that to the attention as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Previs, are there judgments open against the license?
No.
Well, have you had the opportunity to look
I
at it?
haven't had a chance to look at this. No.
Are those copies of the judgments in there, in that packet?
They're not liquor distributors. They're manufacturers that
I'm sorry, I don't know what
haven't
you're
looked at
talking-
them. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Who is not a liquor distributor?
If there's a judgment, the question on the application is there any financial indebtedness or ownership by a liquor manufacturer or distributor?
There is one for a distributor. The other, I'm not sure, it's Quarter Time Amusements. I don't know how that relates to your business specific, but it is subject to Carolina Tex-Mex LLC.
We filed this application in July of 2017, not been in business since July of 2017. We've cooperated with the community associations, 4 of them, since July of 2017. There was an issue brought up that we couldn't have live entertainment. We specifically told everybody there's no live entertainment. We built out the place so that we could actually get a use and occupancy permit, not an application that shows no live entertainment. We sent that back to the board. We requested new meetings with the community associations. We've done all that. We've agreed to all their terms. Councilman Cohen asked in his letter, he did not support this by reason of not entering into an MOU with the community association. We took that to heart. We agreed to all of their terms, and then they turned around and said no. We agreed to that before they said, oh, we changed our minds.
Well, there was no agreement in my mind because the MOU was to be brought before for the community association to negotiate. Really, it wasn't a behind-the-scene negotiation. It should have been open to the residents.
I have
I understand what
every appreciation that you have every right to oppose this transfer. That's not my point. You raised the point that there's judgments against this company, and this company's been out of business for close to 2 years. So yeah, we need to pay some bills, absolutely. That's my point.
Which company has been out of business? Because we're talking about Carolina Tex-Mex, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's the same corporation.
Right,
We're
so it's
requesting
the
a
same.
transfer of the license to a different location. They lost their old business on Broadway. They've asked to move it to Wolf Street.
And they've been operating at Wolf Street as a restaurant, I guess, for the past year or so, or yes or no?
No.
No.
Ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, we can only have one person speak at a time, and if we're going to record the testimony. Okay.
I have a question. if
Go,
it's okay.
please.
Mr. Previous, can you try and respond to this concern? So, in our review of this, we have to look at a number of factors, and one of them is public need and desire. And there's an argument, I think a fairly good one, that there is no public need or desire. Can you respond to that?
I'll proffer, but if you would ask Mr. Silva is a trained chef. He did many years at Tio Pepe's. He had a following on South Broadway. He lost that building and would like to continue that following. His concept is not just Taco Bell microwave burritos. He's going to do fancy seafood, lobster, have seafood to pick, and to prepare for seated dining. He has a following. He's a known chef. He is a commodity in and of himself. The community is changing, and what I'm getting, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's kind of bothering me that the undertones here is we don't need another liquor license in the community. Well, this community is going majority Latino quick, and this is who is coming in, and he's going to cater to the Latinos as well as everybody else. He's known by a lot of people. But that's who's coming in. I'm sorry, but that's 100 years ago the Greeks and the Poles came in, and now the Latinos are coming into that neighborhood, and they're making it a vibrant neighborhood. So I don't think they should be that this place that's going to have Latinos in it is going to hurt the funeral home a block away that has Latinos in it because the Latinos like to stay later.
Not a block away, we're right next door.
Across the street.
It's not Latinos. That's the point. It's not Latinos. It's the establishment. A Polish could purchase there. My grandfather could cook there. That has nothing to do with it. It's the liquor and the size of the establishment that we're referring to. It does not accommodate in a residential neighborhood. It cannot accommodate that many people. It's got nothing to do with Latinos, so don't bring that up into this.
Can I talk to,
You've been sworn, Ms. Janice Silva?
We've been in this meetings many times, and I heard some comments about your people do this, your people do this, your people do this, and somehow it's hitting us in a way that they're coming like we don't have no order or we've been judged for what was there in that location. And we like, no, we lost our business 2 years ago because of predatory lending that we were very naive that we got into. And we've been inclusive. Mr. Andrew say, your people don't have order. They can pee in the corner in one hearing. And I'm sorry that you did that in the first meeting.
Excuse me, she's talking right now. so you
And
guys have to not testify until she's
and I
finished.
opened my mind to that. And when we first look into this location, I emailed Mr. Joanne and say, this is what we're doing, because we had passed with her that she approved our live entertaining in our place. And I emailed first with everything started, and she's like, email Mr. What is the commissioner here, Douglas, Mr. Douglas.
Mr. Page.
Mr. Page. Email him if you can transfer the license to that location. And I emailed him first at the beginning of the whole thing. And I emailed, he said, yes, you can transfer. Inclusive, he checked, because many years ago, we did transfer from 229 South Broadway to 1704 Gulf Street, and we got declined. And we lost almost $150,000 in that location because the board didn't approve it. So I did my due diligence with the beginning of this process. And he said, yes, you can transfer this license. And that's why we did this. And God knows that I'm not in any way putting up there, but there's some comments in these meetings that we've been, it doesn't fit. That's all I want to say.
Anything further? Commissioners have any questions?
None.
Mr. Previous, are your clients willing to have the board have the terms of the MOU apply?
Definitely.
Commissioners have any questions?
None.
Okay, anything further?
No.
Okay, well, the issue before the board is whether or not to approve the transfer of the location of the Class B beer, wine, and liquor license presently located at 505 South Broadway to 500 South Wolf Street. I'd vote to approve it subject to the terms of the MOU that was negotiated. The board. We're going to adopt the terms. I didn't ask you about that.
I concur with the transfer also, that the license be transferred, the business be transferred from 505 South Broadway to 500 South Wolf Street.
This is a challenging one for me because obviously my two colleagues have spoken. I'm troubled that I'm not here to ascribe any motivation, but that the community associations don't appear to be well. It's too bad you couldn't reach a memorandum of understanding. My vote, it would be to not approve the transfer of the location, particularly because of the lack of the public need and desire in this instance. But I'm also disheartened that the sides couldn't come together and work something out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to read the exhibits for the record. And this is a continuation of the exhibits from the last hearing. It's Board's Exhibit Number 3, a letter from Fells Prospect Community Association. Board's Exhibit Number 4, a letter from the Fells Point Resident Association. Board's Exhibit Number 5, an email from Mr. Jeff May, the Upper Fells Point Improvement Association. Opposition, their Exhibit Number 4, a letter regarding past indebtedness. And opposition, Exhibit Number 5, a listing of back taxes owed to the city for property taxes.
Thank you very much.
GPA LLC, trading as Uzo Bay, 1066 Lancaster Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. A request to expand premises to include 800 South Central Avenue with continuation of outdoor table service, requesting live entertainment and off-premise catering. Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Anastasia Nardangeli on behalf of the applicant, and Alexander Smith, who is the owner and a principal of the applicant.
Good afternoon. Would you raise your hand, please, sir?
Yes, sir.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so, Ms. Nardangeli, this is to expand the Uzo Bay, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so is this the next door, 800 South Central, or around the corner, or what?
It's directly across Lancaster Street. There is a portion of property that is going to be included in the lease. The landlord has gained access to this property from the city of Baltimore, and it's right on the water.
Oh, okay, and that's where the outdoor service will be?
That's correct.
Seasonally, I take it?
Correct.
Not yesterday?
Seasonally. Definitely not yesterday.
Okay, and do you have zoning approval for live entertainment?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
I wasn't clear. When you say expand from the current location to another location, these two locations, is this two solid landmass, or does one go to something like some type of waterfront location?
No. It's on solid landmass, sir.
You have two solid landmass,
Yes.
and you go from one location to, how you get to the other location?
Good question. So it's directly adjacent to the location we have now, which is right across the street. So it's an outdoor seating area across the street from Uzo Bay. So it's a seasonal minor privilege permit type outdoor area across the street that will be relying on, obviously, the infrastructure of the restaurant, because we're not cooking across there. Everything is still going to be cooked in the main restaurant and everything else.
So how do you get across the street to that location? You walk across a
There's there's a crosswalk there with actually a light that, well, we're not actually sure what it's going to be yet, because it's going to be under development and it opens in May. Right now the street is closed because of Liberty Building, but there will be actually a crosswalk with a traffic light there.
Just one last question.
Sure.
Do you have a permit depicting everything you just told me?
We applied for permit for construction. We're supposed to pick it up this week or next week.
Approve the permit?
Yes, the plan that we gave you is what was submitted to the city, sir.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further?
I would like to submit a letter that we received from H&S Properties Development Corp., which
That's fine.
is in support of the expansion,
We'll receive it.
as Exhibit 1.
Just curious about. Okay. All right, well, thank you. On the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from council, the exhibits received, the testimony received, I'd vote to approve the expansion of the premises to 800 South Central Avenue with continuation of outdoor table service, live entertainment, and off-premise catering.
I concur with this finding. I also approve the expansion of the business from, what's that, 800 South Central Avenue with continual outdoor table services across the street, for lack of a better word.
That's exactly what it is. Thank you.
I join my colleagues in granting the expansion to include 800 South Central Avenue with continuation of outdoor table service and live entertainment and off-premise catering. Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks for your time.
Exhibits for the record, applicant support from H&S Properties.
Does that conclude our docket, Mr. Page?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The board is in recess until 5 p.m. Thursday, February the 28th, 2019. We are adjourned.
Bringing you back here next week. Thank you. It's a real short docket.